if you've liked a Tommy Robinson post on Twitter, or if you've used a wrong pronoun in a school environment, than if you've been burgled, robbed, had your car stolen.
Tommy Robinson is being kept in isolation while violent criminals are released early to create a buffer zone around him. 25 cells emptied just to keep one man segregated for a civil offence. What does it tell you when the state goes to such extraordinary lengths to punish a journalist?
You've got to understand what the law is, and you've got to understand that people in this country are absolutely free to say, to think, to speak, to do as they will, right up until the point that they break a law.
This isn't about justice anymore. It's about sending a message to anyone who dares challenge the establishment. The shocking developments in Tommy's case reveal a system that's abandoned all pretense of fairness. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Imagine a prison so determined to isolate one man that they'd rather release violent offenders early than keep them nearby. This isn't some dystopian fiction, it's the reality for Tommy Robinson right now. 25 cells, deliberately emptied, creating a buffer zone around a single civil offender. Let that sink in. The British prison system, allegedly bursting at the seams with overcrowding, somehow found room to create this extraordinary isolation zone just for him. When authorities are willing to put potentially dangerous criminals back on the streets prematurely just to keep one journalist sequestered, we should all be asking what they're so afraid of. This level of treatment isn't standard procedure for someone guilty of contempt of court. It's the kind of extreme measure typically reserved for terrorist leaders or serial killers who might radicalise or harm others. Yet Robinson's crime was reporting on cases that the establishment would rather keep quiet. The message is crystal clear. Challenge the narrative and you'll be treated worse than those who commit actual violence against fellow citizens. The prison governor, Nicola Marfley, has taken extraordinary steps that further reveal the vindictive nature of Robinson's confinement. During what should have been a protected legal consultation, she personally cut off his video call mid-conversation with his defence team. This blatant interference with his right to counsel would generate outrage if it happened to anyone else, but that wasn't enough. Marfley also stripped Robinson of all phone privileges, not because of anything he did, but allegedly because others speaking with him might have been recording calls. This collective punishment isolates him not just physically, but cuts him off from his support network and family when he needs them most. Perhaps most disturbing is how the system is deliberately ignoring Robinson's documented medical conditions. Professional medical assessments have confirmed he suffers from both ADHD and complex PTSD, conditions that make isolation particularly devastating to mental health. His legal team has been reduced to pleading with the court to acknowledge the harm being inflicted, even if officials insist on calling it segregation rather than solitary confinement. The semantic games can't hide the reality. Prolonged isolation is exacerbating his psychological conditions in ways that could cause permanent damage. At the heart of this case lies a documentary, one powerful enough to rattle those in power. Sources close to Robinson reveal that he was offered a deal that speaks volumes: remove the documentary, issue an apology, and his sentence would be reduced. It's the kind of backroom offer that confirms what many have suspected all along. This isn't about upholding the law, it's about suppressing information. Robinson refused to be silenced, choosing to stand by his journalistic work even as the cost to his freedom and well-being mounted. His continued punishment isn't about justice, it's retribution for refusing to censor himself. The Court of Appeal recently held a hearing on Robinson's case, spending hours deliberating his situation, yet when it concluded, the judges reserved their judgment without providing any timeline or deadline for a decision. This calculated ambiguity leaves Robinson and his legal team suspended in a state of limbo, unable to move forward with appeals or additional legal strategies while they wait for a ruling that might be delayed indefinitely. It's a particularly cruel form of judicial purgatory. Equally telling is the deafening silence from those who should be most concerned. Where are the human rights lawyers who rush to defend other prisoners from inhumane treatment? Where are the civil liberties campaigners who lecture endlessly about the importance of press freedom? Their absence speaks volumes about the selective nature of their outrage. When the target of state overreach doesn't fit their preferred political profile, principles are quickly abandoned. Robinson's case has become far more than a matter of one man's freedom. It's a test case for determining how far the British state will go to silence voices that challenge established narratives. If authorities can empty prison wings, ignore medical conditions, interfere with legal representation, and indefinitely delay judicial processes for a journalist they dislike, what's to stop them from doing the same to others? The precedent being set here should alarm anyone who believes in the fundamental principles of free expression, regardless of their political persuasion. The stark contrast is impossible to miss. A journalist held in effective solitary confinement while violent offenders walk free ahead of schedule. What message does this send to other independent journalists who might be considering investigations into sensitive topics? The chilling effect extends far beyond Robinson himself. It whispers to every reporter, filmmaker, and commentator that certain subjects are off limits, and the price for ignoring those boundaries could be your freedom, your health, and your basic human dignity. What's unfolding with Tommy Robinson isn't just about one man's legal troubles, it's the canary in the coal mine for British civil liberties. Every precedent established here could be weaponised against any journalist who challenges power tomorrow. The state's extraordinary measures reveal how thin the veneer of procedural justice becomes when establishments feel threatened. We're witnessing a watershed moment that will determine how dissent is handled in this country. This case will establish whether we still live in a society where uncomfortable truths can be spoken without fear of disproportionate retribution. The question isn't just whether you support Robinson, it's whether you support the principle that journalism shouldn't lead to political imprisonment.